up our sleeves, do the hard work, organize, keep this momentum going by not resting on your laurels. Run like you're 20 points behind, even if you're 20 points ahead. And if we do that, we will win back both chambers and be able to get this guy out of there even before 2028. So mark my words, we're not resting until we do that.
Welcome to the Practivist Pod, the practice of activism made practical.
Today, we are celebrating our huge, massive wins all over the country in a clear repudiation of Trump and his brutal, destructive regime. Democrats continuing to overperform in all of these, all the expectations. What a night.
Yeah, and then to further break down all of our wins and what this means for Democrats moving forward as we head towards the midterms, we speak with the chair of the DNC, Ken Martin. I'm Jessica Craven.
I'm Steve Pearson.
And
Jess.
I'm wearing my Joy shirt today, Steve. You can't really see it on camera, but this is my Joy shirt. This is when I am both very joyful and very exhausted. This is the t-shirt that I end up in.
It's comfy and happy making. I'm wearing a fun kind of, shirt too, enjoying the day. What a night. Seriously. Like I was kidding around with my wife before we were recording that every week you and I are like, hey, Jess, hey, Steve, how's it going?
Yeah.
And also, God, it's been a year. It's been a year since Trump was elected. I mean, that it took forever to get here, but also I can't believe it's been a year. And, I just thank you, America. I'm going to channel your friend Robert Hubble right now and say, of course we're going to win because Americans are better than this. Like, we're not going to stand for this kind of authoritarianism in our country. We're not going to stand for people being disappeared from the streets. We're not going to stand for someone knocking down the East Wing of the fucking White House. We're going to stand up together as Americans and vote to take care of our neighbors and vote to take care of each other and for health care and for food benefits and all the, brutal stuff that the Republican regime right now is saddling us with. We're going to stand up. And we did it with No Kings. There's new reporting and stuff that shows that more people identify with more kings than No Kings, rather. Not more kings, No Kings.
Yeah.
And then we had this sweep, like difficult to find an election that we didn't win last night. So I'm feeling good.
Yeah. I think it's important. It is really important to, I mean, if you watch some of the interviews with people who had turned out and voted yesterday who did not vote in 2024, and that's a lot of people. Like that was a lot of people. Over and over again, I heard people saying it's because of the family separation. It's because of the ICE raids. It's because of, also it's because of the terrible economy. It's because of all these things. But the ICE raids, come on, what's happening is, Jesus, they were in Cypress Park yesterday here in our neighborhood at the Home Depot, right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes from me. They abducted a guy and his baby. Like, the baby finally was returned to his family, but like it is every day, and so I think that people are, there were people that they were interviewing them on the news who were in tears, just saying like, you don't do this to families. And so I think what the greatest thing about last night is just seeing that the majority of Americans, there is now proof that they do not stand with the Trump regime, that they actively oppose it. Maybe some of them are afraid to go to a rally. They're afraid to speak up, but they will go out and vote. And that is a beautiful thing.
So beautiful. It was crazy to look at the lines here in California for Prop 50, which passed by. We're still in California. It takes us a minute to get all those ballots in, but it's looking like about a 65%. It passed by, which is huge. And to see, Californians and students and, all these people standing in lines for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, waiting to get in not to vote for a candidate, but to vote for this proposition, for one ballot measure, because they know what's at stake and they know the statement that they're making by doing this. And I mean, you said it with what's going on with the ICE raids, the immigration policies. We've talked about this on our show before. Project 2025 definitely had outlined extremely hardline immigration policies, but it did not have, masked ICE agents abducting people in the middle of the street and doing that kind of just abject, cruel, and heinous acts. And that has caused a rift even amongst more conservative folks. And that bears out in what we saw last night. We're going to be dissecting all the numbers and the demographics of who showed up and who voted. But, two key demographics that we know that, as you said, didn't really show up in 24, that showed up in a big way. Young voters who were the wind beneath our sails in the last midterm elections and gave me so much hope for the trajectory of the electorate. We had a lot of them drop off in the presidential in 24. They came back in a big way, not just in New York, not just for Mondani, but all over the country. They showed up. Yeah. And then men under 30 too. The dudes. Thank you, fellas. Come on, guys. I don't know how many people I need to scream at, but I want to just talk about one number I have here. In New Jersey, you had 56% turnout from men under 30 for Democrats, compared to 44% for Republicans. In Virginia,
that's wild.
It's wild.
Oh my God, that is so encouraging.
In Virginia, you had 57% turnout for men under 30, compared to 42% for Republicans. In New York City, of course, we had, for Democratic men under 30, 68% turnout compared to 26% Republicans. So this is the demographic that people kind of want to write off in many ways. And, because you're like, okay, they're a lost cause. They've never voted, Democrat really historically anyway. To see this turnaround really shows this shift. And, it's encouraging, and thank you to the guys.
Yeah, and it's a great reminder too. We do this thing where we have one election and we say that what happened in that election is destiny. It's going to happen forever. Oh, we lost Latino voters. We lost Black voters. We did for one election for a bunch of different reasons, bunch of misinformation, a bunch of, terrible economy, or at least terrible for working class people. But to write off all of these demographics, to say, oh, young white men are lost, forget it. I mean, it's not to say there are not problems there, but to see them all come back to this side is deeply reassuring, and a reminder that we don't write groups of people off. We continue to do the work and offer great candidates, and also to a certain extent trust the Republicans to do our job for us. I mean, my God, there's no better recruitment engine for Democrats and the left than Trump and his policies right now, destroying the economy, destroying the fabric of our society, harming families, hurting children, starving people, choosing to starve people, refusing to abide by court orders in order to starve people. I mean, come on, you don't get better campaign ads than that. I mean, it's so... Yes, it is great to see those demographics return to Democrats. We're not going to take it for granted. Obviously we have a lot more work to do, but it's very encouraging. And just these margins, Steve. I mean, we were hearing, New Jersey is going to be a squeaker, which I was very skeptical about that. But, we all get taken in by polls and, we don't know. It's a toss up. And what did she win by 14 points? I think, I don't know. It's a pretty huge margin. I don't have the margin in front of me, but I know it was double digits, and that's New Jersey. And we also, I believe, expanded the majority in the New Jersey legislature, which is great. And then Virginia, forget it. I mean, she won by, I think it was 20 points. And we picked up 13 seats in the Virginia State House.
13 flips.
So let me just tell you, I was talking to Melissa Walker, who, if you guys don't know the States Project, you got to know it. It's one of the best organizations out there. She's been working on state legislative races since 2017. I've known her since then. We talk, before, during, and after every state legislative election. Last night she was texting me and she was like, in our dreams, we thought, like, in a great night, we would flip 8 seats. She was like, that was literally our highest number. We thought maybe 8 seats if it's a great night.
Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
13.
I texted you when it was 11. I was saying, and we were like, holy shit, 11. And then I went to the
It's almost a supermajority. It's almost a supermajority.
Yeah, almost a supermajority.
Yeah.
And it's very important also in terms of the redistricting battles that we're in right now too, because Virginia will certainly do some mid-decade redistricting of their own to fight back against the gerrymandering that the Republicans initiated, and that we're going to see.
And Maryland will too. Maryland said
will
they
too.
will.
We've talked about this. A lot of people were, a lot of states and governors were kind of sitting on their hands a little bit, watching what happens in California before they really stuck their neck out. Not only did we pass by a resounding 65%, so it shows that it was very popular with Democrats, but this has thrust Gavin Newsom. It's a huge win for him into the, if the presidential primary were to be held next week, he would definitely be like the front runner there. And so these other governors who might have other aspirations or just want to make sure that they have the support they need to get it across the finish line, they sure have it now. That's a strong
they do, but I'll tell you what, they should have stuck their
it's mind-boggling.
They should have stuck their necks out sooner. I mean, I got to say, like, Gavin Newsom took a risk. It was not a foregone conclusion. This could have been a disaster for him. And he, we all know I've got like my issues with Gavin Newsom, particularly around trans issues, which I trust he can evolve on, and I hope he will. He's not, I've had my issues, let's just say. I don't think he's a perfect guy.
Nope.
But in this moment, he has risen to the occasion in spades. I mean, in spades. And he continues. This morning he was posting, he's trolling Donald Trump over the election results. He knows you can't ever let up. When you're dealing with a bully of that proportions, you come back and you come back harder, and then you come back again and you keep coming back hard. And we needed somebody who had the energy and the drive to do that. Quite frankly, I don't know that I would have if I were the governor. I mean, fortunately, I'm not going to be the governor, but he did. And, props to him. Honestly, I give him a lot of shit. So I'm going to say, like, huge props to him in this moment. Well played, and continued to be playing well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
and just to see the turnout too, the result was spectacular, but just to see people showing up and voting at presidential levels at this, it's not hyperbole when we talk about this particular election cycle, especially Virginia. We always look at Virginia as, sort of precursor to what we might possibly see in the midterms. It doesn't determine everything. There's still a year to go. But we use these bellwethers, and they're pretty good predictors. And like I always say, I don't love the polls. I really like to look at election results, obviously, but also volunteer enthusiasm and turnout.
Yeah.
Those are the big bellwethers that I want to see, because if a year before the midterms, you have the kind of volunteer enthusiasm that brings this kind of result, then that makes me feel very confident coming into the midterms. So keep it up. And by the way, to our listeners, to everyone, because I know all of our listeners played a role in this, wherever you are, you stepped up in a big way. You made those calls, you knocked on doors, you wrote letters, you called your reps, you did everything along the way. You showed up at the No Kings rallies and made that bigger and bigger. So thank you. Thank you for giving us all just a little less weight on our shoulders right now, knowing that this is our America. This is what we stand for, and that we are in this together. And I'm so grateful to everyone who volunteered. And we're definitely going to Had to keep it up.
Yeah, I jumped on a Prop 50 phone bank yesterday. I have not done as much phone banking this go around as I normally do, just because I've been, I don't know, making a lot of content.
Busy.
But I jumped on 2 phone banks yesterday. I did one for Pennsylvania for the Supreme Court justices, which was a blast. And then I jumped on a Grassroots Dems phone bank for Prop 50, and there were over 100 people there, and they said, oh yeah, earlier today we had 150 people phone banking. And then I jumped on one at 5, and there were still 100 people 3 hours before polls closed. Wow. There were 100 people on that one phone bank making calls, and I was like, oh damn, it's going to be good. I mean, It's just great. And we've had postcarding, we've had people knocking doors. I know so many people who have been canvassing nonstop for Prop 50. Yeah, I mean, the grassroots never gets the credit it deserves in this situation. And so, we always make big fusses over the candidates and big fusses over how much money was given. But y'all, you literally did this. Yep. And so if nobody else thanks you, Steve and I are thanking you. I know what you did, and thank you. I know it's particularly hard to volunteer when you are daily burdened by horrible, relentless bad news.
Yeah.
And this is really where hope is in action, not a feeling, because none of us have felt particularly hopeful for months at all. That's an understatement. And yet you guys kept showing up. And so that's why I say hope is in action, not a feeling. And you acted in a hopeful way, and look where we are. Now we get to actually feel hope.
Now we feel it,
which is great. Yeah, it's great.
Our reasons for hope are easy. I think you were just about to talk about Pennsylvania too, because you made those calls for Pennsylvania, and that was an election that is usually way under the radar. Republicans poured a lot of money into that, hoping to steal those Supreme Court seats, and then of course steal the election, steal Pennsylvania because of having a favorable court, and that we won that by 80%. 80%.
Oh my God, is that what it was?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, that was the
yet.
last number I saw. Maybe that's adjusted, so
I believe
don't quote us. We're just organizers. We're not journalists. So we're fast and loose with the numbers here sometimes. But it was about 80% the last time I saw it. Huge. Yeah. And that is all of the work that you, Jess, and everyone else who made calls and got activated in Pennsylvania for an election that really people weren't paying attention to. I know you have a breakdown of all of these other elections, races around the country. Do you want to talk about them? Because there are some really great smaller ones. I mean, they're all big. I mean,
I'll tell you what, this is a smattering because there were so many elections. I mean, not in every state, but in many, many states. But in Maine, we defeated the anti-voting, Republican-backed right-wing, voter suppression ballot measure, and they won a red flag ballot measure. So they are now going to have red flag laws in Maine, which is huge. Awesome. But then there's just all these little ones that I'm starting to see. And again, there will be so many more. But Run for Something, which again, I love this organization so much. They ran down ballot candidates, and they had a massive win rate last night. The last I saw, they'd won something like 88% of their races, which even for them is high. I mean, that's insane. In Ulster County, New York, their candidates flipped seats red to blue against Republican incumbents. One of them, Laura Donovan, won by just 36 votes. Wow. In Bucks County, Pennsylvania voters finished ousting MAGA school board members. They got a super MAGA school board back in 2021. And we ousted some of them in 2023. We ousted the rest. And now Democrats have full control of both school boards. Let me see what else. We've got Douglas County, which I believe is in Colorado. We ousted all the red school board members there. Over 20 towns in Connecticut flipped from Republican to Democratic control in a huge upset for Connecticut voters. Town councils just flipping all over the state, which is amazing. We Democrats surged to a commanding supermajority in the New Jersey Assembly, which we talked about before. Dorsey Apilars, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She was elected mayor of Albany. A high school teacher, Anthony Angelozzi, just flipped a seat in New Jersey, which is amazing. I mean, I'm just sort of reading these as they come. Yeah. Small town in North Carolina, the city council went from 5 Republican to 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans. May Nivar was just elected as the first Chinese-American legislator in Virginia. It just goes on and on. Finally, Detroit elected the first ever woman as mayor, Mary Sheffield. And this is just a sampling. It goes, I mean, there will be long, long lists, and we'll get to see all of them. But across the country, down ballot, up ballot, and everywhere in between, it was a stunning and magnificent. I've seen many election nights. This may be my favorite one yet.
Absolutely. I mean, the down ballot races are so, like, every county, you look at like Virginia, the overperformance in every single county, everything shifting Democrat. But like when you talk about those school board races and those city council races and everything, this has been the Republicans' secret sauce. Not so much of a secret anymore, but this is what they've been really good at, is putting resources in and focusing on these, local races, developing their bench, but also getting control of local governments that, can, we know what a huge impact that has on our lives. We talk about getting involved locally all the time, especially when the federal government is so inept, and has such a difficult time, delivering for people. The local government has a massive impact. And so Republicans have been very good about quietly stealing these school board seats and these city council seats and getting extremists in there, and just all over the country, they just got wiped. They just got wiped out. So this is a great. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and in general, the sort of anti-LGBTQ, anti-trans efforts. I heard that 57% of the Republican ads in Virginia were anti-trans ads. And I think that in general, people are just like, I'm done.
They don't give a shit about it.
They don't give a shit. They've never given a shit.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, with the economy teetering on the verge of a recession, people are just like, stop it. Stop talking to me about that shit. I don't care. You misled me once. Bullshit. And so I think we're seeing that in school boards across the country, which is great. And also, Steve, we have forgotten to really talk about Zoran Mamdani. And I just want to say,
who's that? Sorry.
I spent a half an hour yesterday morning going down a wormhole of it's not a wormhole, it was a beautiful wormhole of watching his campaign ads and thinking, I am going to be sad when this campaign is over, because these have been magnificent. They have explored city history. They have touched and talked to every single demographic group. He has done fantastic ads in Spanish, in Arabic. I mean, his historic speech pushing back against anti-Muslim hate speech, it's been beautiful. And this morning he's out with another one talking about his transition team, which is going to be all women. Like the guy, I don't know how he is surviving on the lack of sleep that he is surviving on, but it's just been beautiful to watch. And it looks like it's just going to continue to be beautiful to watch. And his speech last night, oh my God. So that's we could talk about a whole episode devoted to Zoran Mamdani, and I'm thrilled. Thrilled.
Maybe we can get him on the show. Let's get him on the show.
You never know.
Yeah.
The line is long, I'm sure. But
the line just got a lot longer too. But
oh my God.
Starting his campaign too by going into red areas of New York and of New York City and talking to Republicans. That's where he really started making these videos, talking to Republicans about why they voted, why they did, and what he can do to reach them. And
amazing.
Despite just being a genuine, authentic, really strong messenger, which is what we need in our candidates. I think Democrats ought to look, really take his campaign like one of those master classes that you can download on the internet, and really apply what he's done, because he met voters where they were. He used social media in a very effective way, alternative media, all the stuff that we talk about. We need more investment in, and Democrats need to lean into more. He executed that expertly, and now he is the mayor of New York. So very exciting.
Yeah. His social media game is unbelievable, and I don't know, like, I'm not sure every single candidate can replicate what it was almost lightning in a bottle. But
that other, he is who he is. So, but just in terms of how he approached it and how he reached out to people, I hope Democrats writ large,
100%,
go to school on that.
Yeah, so absolutely brilliant.
So great job again, everybody. Thank you. And, I don't know, do you want to talk about a reason for hope here?
I actually do. I do. And I'll just briefly, very briefly, and it won't be election related this time, but I just want to tell y'all, last week, as you know, because I wasn't on the show, I was in DC on a very whirlwind, insane, 2.5 day visit where I interviewed a ton of lawmakers. I don't know, like 36 lawmakers all over. And I got to tour the Capitol with Cory Booker one day and tour it with Jamie Raskin another day. It was a wild experience, but that is what gave me hope. And I'll tell you, it was the meeting these lawmakers, some of whom I disagree on certain policies. I've got issues with Cory Booker. I've got issues with whomever, but who so deeply and passionately care about their constituents. That was the one thing I got from every single person I spoke to. Literally almost tears in their eyes as they talked about the suffering their constituents were facing with the healthcare increases, with SNAP. And, House Republicans are gone. The Capitol was empty.
Yeah.
It was like touring a museum after hours. But they are there, and they are showing up there doing everything in their power. And the last thing I'll say is that touring the Capitol with Cory Booker and Jamie Raskin, each of whom is a basically seems like a scholar of American history, constitutional history. So the excitement that they showed, especially Cory Booker and Jamie Raskin touring the Capitol, Cory Booker was like a child. He was so excited to show us where Lincoln's desk stood and where all the different things stood. And juxtaposing that with the destruction of the East Wing of the White House, which had happened just before, look, some people are like, who cares about a building? And other people do care. But it's history. It's American history. It's a reverence for everything that has come before, good and bad, the awful, the ugly, the brilliant. And not only does Trump care, he doesn't know it. He doesn't know it at all. That guy couldn't tell you the first thing about American history. I guarantee you. He'd walk through the Capitol and be like, I don't know, where's my golf clubs? It was really beautiful to see this reverence for the history, and for all of it, for the government that is encapsulated in this beautiful building we were in, and all of these lawmakers who are imperfect but trying so hard to solve situations for their constituents and really being brave in a moment when they've been hammered by the right-wing press. So if you have a Democratic lawmaker, really genuinely call them and thank them, because what they're doing is hard. And right now we're on the upswing. It looks like we are going to win, and it's great. But they've been doing this for 40 days, and it's not always easy. A lot of them are choosing to go without pay, including Jamie Raskin, and a lot of other ones I spoke to are like, "Oh, I'm not taking a paycheck right now." So I felt a lot of hope and love actually being there with them. So that's awesome. My reason for hope. Do you have one, Steve? Is there another one, or should we just? Well, I do, but that reminded me. We kind of skipped over it because we don't really have Chop Wood Carry Water stuff for you all, other than just to celebrate this week and take a big breath, because I know everyone worked really hard, but the shutdown is still happening, and we have the huge momentum right now. Obviously, we have the mandate, and I was at a election night party last night with a couple of members of Congress who were talking about, okay, now we're going to go back to DC and really lay into our Republican colleagues on the other side of the aisle and say, what do you want to do here? We need to get back running. We need health care for, we need to, it's time to negotiate. Democrats have the mandate, but it's really important. Yeah. So after you take a little nap, rest, enjoy, revel in these victories, thank your representatives for standing strong, encourage them to keep standing strong during this shutdown, because we do have the mandate. And and I'll just say, momentum, mandate, everything that I saw last night gives me so much hope, and it really I'm a hopey guy. I'm an optimist. I will look at the bright side of things. I did not see the turnout and the results like this. This so exceeded what I thought would happen, and
I thought we would have a good night. But what we really needed was a fucking blowout. Because, of course, Trump has already come out and said, oh, we're going to look at this. These votes are illegal and vote by mail and all that, And it's like, so what we need to overcome all that is just a tremendous blowout that's just undeniable. And we got that. We got exactly that. And so that gives me a lot of hope.
Yep. 100% agree. And the last thing I will say is, and if you have a Republican lawmaker, make sure you call them and say something along the lines of, did you see what happened last night? Did you see the results of those? That will be you next year if you don't start standing up to this man. That is guaranteed to be you. Say it to, I don't care, any Republican in the deepest red district, because they are all vulnerable. Every single one. I don't care how fucking safe their seat is. Right. We are going to come for all of them next year. Done. And they should know that. Now I'm done.
They are reassessing right now, whether they say it out loud or not. They are definitely reassessing their life choices right now. Time to accelerate. Yes. Who was it that said time to accelerate your next stage, your 5-year plan? Make it a 1 year. Go ahead and get that consultant gig.
Yeah, I wonder how many Republicans start retiring right now. I mean, the retirements, it's going to be something. They're going to, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to stop. We're done talking about it, but I'm going to keep talking about it with someone who will really be able to lay out where we go next with this great momentum, the chair of the DNC, Ken Martin. Ken Martin is, of course, the chair of the Democratic National Committee. Chair Martin, thank you so much for joining us. It's really great to meet you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me on today.
Of course. Throughout the year, Democrats have been on a winning streak, overperforming in election after election. But this was our first major nationwide election test, and yours as chair, too. So how did we do? How are you feeling today?
Well, we did great, of course, and I'm obviously on cloud 9, but we're not resting on our laurels. I sort of deflated the balloon last night at the victory party here at the DNC because I said, look, guys, tomorrow is the first day of the next election, so we're going to have to get back to work. But, look, truly, there's a lot to learn from this election, of course. There's certainly wind at our back as we head into this critical midterm election. But I think what was remarkable about last evening was just how deep and wide these victories were, and particularly when you compare it to the 27 midterm elections. We won races all over the country in places that we haven't won before. I'll give you a couple of examples of some historic, things that happened last night. We picked up 13 House seats in the Virginia House of Delegates, right?
Yeah.
But what's was untold in the stories is that of the 7 of those 13 seats were held by Republicans for the last 40 years. We flipped 7 seats that we haven't held for 40 years, right? In Georgia, we elected 2 Democrats statewide to the Public Services Commission. These are the 2 first non-federal statewide elected officials that we've elected in Georgia in 20 years, and including the first Black woman to be elected statewide in their state's history, right?
Wow.
In Detroit, we elected their first African-American woman as mayor, same in Albany. But in Mississippi, one of the reddest states in the country, right? We picked up 3 seats in their state legislature to break their supermajority and actually give Democrats some hope at slowing down the Republicans in that state. And we were deeply invested in that, right? So while the big 5 get a lot of attention, of course, what happened in California, and thank you for all of your work there for helping to save our democracy, but also what happened in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, and of course, New York. That has gotten all the attention, and rightfully so, because those were marquee races. But underneath of this, our election wins were really deep and wide, as I mentioned. All over the country we won. It was a clean sweep. Part of it, of course, no doubt, was a repudiation of Donald Trump and this disastrous policies that are destroying people's lives. another part of it, of course, was the sort of positive message that our candidates were focused on, giving people who are struggling right now in our country, people who are barely surviving, a sense that their best shot at an opportunity to get ahead is with Democrats, because we focused on affordability. We focused on actually making sure that we bring down the cost of goods, that we can help people afford to put groceries on the table and pay their soaring gas and utility prices, help them pay their mortgage and their rent, right? I mean, all the pieces that folks are struggling with around the kitchen table issue, that was where our focus was at. And as a result, by the way, Steve, we won back huge constituencies that we lost last year, right?
Yeah.
The Latino vote swung heavily back our way. Young voters swung heavily back our way, including young men, right?
Yeah, I saw those numbers. Crazy.
Yeah. Latino community, we won, almost 2-1 in both New Jersey and Virginia. It's just amazing what we saw, of course, but not to, again, be the guy that's popping everyone's balloon here, but none of that is guaranteed unless we continue to build those relationships, solidify the relationship with those communities around their hopes and aspirations, and certainly shared values. And once we earn their trust by delivering for them and, actually continuing to organize and be present in community, then I think we can be a little bit more certain of our victory in 26. But as I said, we just keep working right now. I'm really, really pleased of what happened last night. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to rest until 2028 and we end this really long national nightmare that is this MAGA movement.
That's the attitude. And you're not popping my balloon. I'm with you 100%. And I think that, we had here in California, an incredible, victory. I mean, the fact that we had people standing in lines in California where they have had a mail-in ballot in their home for weeks and weeks now for an hour and a half, 2 hours to vote on a proposition, not a candidate, but a ballot measure. It's the only thing on the ballot. And it was such a repudiation of Trump and this regime, and a statement of hope for the future. But like you said, we have made it a lot easier, but we didn't just get those seats. We still have to work to make sure that we win those seats. There's still very much competitive seats. The road to winning back the House is still very much goes through California. So we have a lot of work to do. We're not resting here at all.
It's important to thank you guys for what you did to help level the playing field. I mean, what you guys did with Prop 50 was the counterpunch to what Greg Abbott and Donald Trump did in Texas. And, I was the first person on the ground right after Greg Abbott decided to introduce that redistricting bill, and working with those House Democrats down there. And I will tell you, I've said that, we are not going to, just roll over and take this. We're seeing our Constitution shredded before our eyes. We're seeing this march towards authoritarianism, and we're seeing a regime that knows that they're likely to lose their power in 26 because their ideas and their policies are so, hugely unpopular in this country, and people are deeply suffering. And so Prop 50, of course, your governor and everyone there understood the assignment, which was, this isn't about party. This isn't about Democratic Party or, our party values. This is about America. This is about our Constitution. This is about free and fair elections. And as you know, our Constitution does not provide for mid-cycle redistricting. It's very clear. You have a decennial census, you count the people, and then you draw the line. So, well, what the Republicans did was not only unconstitutional in Texas, it was a craven power grab by the Republicans, who are so desperate to hold on to power, they'll cheat and they'll steal and they'll rig the maps. And if we didn't stop them in by what you guys did in California, I imagine they are going to bring this everywhere around the country, and they still might. But what we've been saying to folks is, look, for every state they try this in, we're going to meet them every step of the way. They wanted this fight. Remember, they started this fight. They want this fight. And if they want a showdown, we're going to give it to them, right? Every single state they try to do this in now, we're going to respond in kind. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I think the 65%, voted yes on that, just a huge landslide. That's hopefully going to give cover to some other states that have been watching and maybe sitting on their hands a little longer than I would like. But, there's a mandate for this, and it's certainly been good for Governor Newsom as well. So, I hope some other Democratic states follow suit, but that's another thing. This, off year, quote unquote, election is often looked at as a bellwether for the midterms, especially when we look at Virginia. I like to pay close attention to volunteer engagement to really gauge where our organizing may be a year later. Did you expect to see this kind of engagement at this point, considering, a lot of the apathy and despondency that people are feeling, the burnout that a lot of our volunteers have had? I mean, the phone banks, the door knocking, everything was intense and obviously led to this historic turnout.
Well, there's no doubt about it. But I would say, look, earlier this year, of course, people were still really depressed, anxious, not certain what to do. And I have to give credit to some of the outside groups like Indivisible and some of the resistance groups who started organizing, giving people an outlet for that energy, right? And slowly building, that first No Kings rally and the second No Kings rally were good examples of the energy. And I will tell you, in the first No Kings rally is when I started to realize that people were starting to wake up and realizing that we have to stand up and fight in this moment. That if we're going to save our democracy, we all have to engage in whatever ways that we can. But election after election, we started to see things happening. As you mentioned, there were 45 elections on the ballot between Donald Trump's inauguration and last evening. And in all of them, the Democrats overperformed at a significant rate. In fact, a historic percentage, 16 percentage points of overperformance, which is an all-time record. And what that meant is we had wind at our backs. There's certainly that overperformance resulted in us winning many elections up and down the ballot. I mean, in Pennsylvania, we flipped a plus 20% Trump district that had not elected a Democrat since the 1880s. And now you have Senator James Malone there, right? In Iowa, we flipped a Senate seat with Caitlin Dray, a tremendous victory that was, again, a plus 20% or so Trump district that we flipped there, and so many victories like that. In Omaha, we defeated the longest serving Republican mayor in the country and elected their first black mayor in John Ewing. And I say these are just a few of many, many historic victories that were the result of this overperformance and democratic enthusiasm, right? People showing up, volunteering, rolling up their sleeves and getting involved. And in fact, on Tuesday and over the last several weeks leading up to this election, Steve, we saw a record amount of volunteerism around the country. In Virginia, New Jersey, right, in Pennsylvania, all over the country, there were critical elections. And I will tell you that there was just a poll yesterday, or actually on Monday, that was instructive on this. They asked voters around the country, to both Republicans and Democrats, how enthusiastic are you to support your party in the upcoming elections, both in 25 and 26. And 67% of Democrats said they were very enthusiastic, and only 43% of Republicans, right? Yeah. A 20 some odd percentage point enthusiasm gap in favor of Democrats. And so, we saw that a little bit on Election Day.
Yeah, that really bore out with the turnout. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The Republicans didn't turn out. But also what I would say again is, we didn't win because Republicans didn't show up. We won because huge parts of their winning coalition last year swung back our way and supported the Democratic candidate's positive message, which clearly resonated with voters yesterday.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you touched on it a little bit earlier, who we got back. And I feel like we have spent so much time over the last year debating what went wrong, where our messaging is, how the party gets back all of the drop-off voters. And we got them back. Young people showed up, young people who in the last midterms really were the factor that kept that red wave from happening. They showed up, as you said, Latino voters, and those young men numbers are really, really striking too. Under 30 voters, under 30 men. So it's definitely repudiation of Trump. And as you articulated, it's also more than that. Like we gave them something to vote for. Our message was simple: economics. It was the pocketbook, really what Trump promised people, but they now see was a complete lie. He doesn't care about our pocketbooks at one bit. He cares about his ballroom. So,
that's right.
We kind of have the roadmap. We certainly know the message. We did have campaigns running very different campaigns, as you always do. Some more traditional, and some a little bit more innovative, like we saw in New York with Mayor-elect Mamdani.
Yes.
In all cases, we overperformed our expectations. So, a day after that election, when you're looking at this, what does this tell us about our tactics that we should use to reach out to voters in the midterms? Like, how are we taking the lessons of that and applying them to the next steps?
Yeah. First off, run for something. Of course, we have to, resist Trump with every fiber of our being, for sure. Don't get me wrong. I mean, what we're seeing is so existential and unprecedented, and we have to continue to stand up to these egregious acts. I mean, look, last week he was throwing a gilded Great Gatsby party in Mar-a-Lago on the eve of 42 million Americans and starving families being kicked off of their food benefits. I mean, this morally depraved, soulless human being who is president of the United States deserves us calling him out every single time he crosses these lines, which is all the time.
Yep.
However, and I mean this truly, if all we're doing is resisting Donald Trump, then the one thing we're not doing is giving people a sense of who we are as Democrats, what we're fighting for and why. And most importantly, giving people hope, giving them some hope that they can actually get ahead in life. Because right now, most people are just surviving day to day, wondering where their paycheck's going to come from, wondering how they can pay their bills, wondering how they can put food on the table and feed their families, wondering if they're going to have health insurance next month or be priced out of it because of what this administration is doing, right? All these pieces that drive the anxiety of Americans right now, not just Democrats, but people throughout this country who most Americans right now are feeling the squeeze. And so I say this because we have to give people hope that their better days are ahead of them. We have to give them hope that they can actually achieve the American dream, which is climbing the economic ladder and building a better life for yourself, right? That has always been the Democratic Party, but we got to get back to our roots. And what do I mean by that? Last year, Steve, and this should have been the canary in the coal mine for Democrats, right? I remember when this came out, I was just so shocked. It was the spring of 24. There was research that showed for the first time in American history that the perceptions of the two political parties has flipped, that the majority of Americans believed then that the Republican Party best represents the interest of the middle class, the working class, and the poor, and the Democratic Party is the party of the wealthy and the elites. And sure enough, by the way, just to prove the point, the only two groups that we overperformed with in the presidential contest last year, wealthy households and college-educated voters. That's the challenge for us, right? And so what I'm just amazed by is everyone understood the assignment here moving into this election. Focus on the economic issues that are driving people's concerns in this country. Give them a sense that you're fighting for them. Stand up and fight. Actually give them hope that they can actually achieve the American dream and not have to struggle so much in life. That's what we got back to. We got back to our core message. James Carville said this in 92, and nothing's changed, right, since then, which is it's the economy, stupid. It's always been the economy, stupid. And while people had deep concerns about democracy last year, and they still do, and they had deep concerns about abortion rights, and they still do, the reality is people always vote their own economic kitchen table pocketbook issues before everything else. That was true in 24, and it certainly was true in 2025.
100%. I have my own opinions, obviously, about how we messaged around that, but I don't think in the last campaign we really addressed poverty. And I think one of the issues behind that was the graphs, the charts, everything looked good. Biden did an amazing job. He was the most impactful president in my lifetime. Behind me is my dad with Johnson. My dad was counsel to President Johnson.
Oh, wow. Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
He helped implement the Great Society and all the programs that Trump is dismantling right now. But Biden was the most impactful president in my lifetime, and he had set the economy on the right track. And so, they wanted to talk about that. But the fact is, people weren't feeling that. And it is really difficult to, talk facts and figures when someone is working multiple jobs and can't afford to buy stuff and healthcare and all of that,
That's exactly right.
And I think also Trump came out with, the country is a hellhole. Everything is, no one can afford anything. It's gone to shit and all that. And we didn't want to kind of be on that message either. We didn't really want to address people who are feeling that pain because of the way that, we wanted to tout the great work we'd done with the economy and the Biden had done. And
I think that's right. Look, you had a record economic success for the president, and all of us who were out there talking about it, high GDP, real wage growth for the first time in 30 years, low unemployment, the best economy of any industrial nation, post-COVID.
How can you not talk about How can you not talk about those things? You have to.
Right. Record job growth, all that. But the problem is exactly what you said. To most working people, with inflation going up the way it was, they weren't feeling it. And I remember people saying to me, the economy's good. What planet do you live on? Right.
Right.
And the reality, that was part of the challenge. They just weren't feeling it. And so much of elections, unfortunately, is how people feel about you. And that's why that perception, that poll that came out was really shocking to me, and really what, like I said, was a canary in the coal mine. So we got to get back to actually making sure that people know that we're fighting for them and we're going to stand up. One of my mentors, my very first boss in politics, was a bushy-haired college professor from Northfield, Minnesota, named Paul Wellstone. And Paul used to say that you should never separate the life you lead from the words you speak, right? And I think too often than not, what people see, there's such a low trust in institutions, democratic institutions right now. They don't believe that government can change their lives. They don't believe in politicians. They have little to no faith that, government can be a solution to the issues they're facing right now. And part of that is because they see elected officials and candidates get up and make these promises, and then when they vote for them and get them in office, they don't deliver, right? And so we have to deliver. Now we'll have to deliver in Virginia and New Jersey and New York and across the country where they elected Democrats who promised them they were going to do that. And so that clearly is something Donald Trump did not do. He promised them, he was focused on, sort of kitchen table issues. And let me
lower prices on day one. Yeah,
that's right. But let me tell you where Donald Trump, he's very good at sort of tapping into the zeitgeist of this country and then exploiting people's fears and concerns with a lot of lies and empty promises. It's who he is. And he was able to do that very successfully last year. But the other argument, and Republicans make, not just Donald Trump, but all Republicans, is an easy argument for them, right? They say to the American people, look, government sucks. It's not working for you. We're going to go in and blow it up and make it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
right? Of course, when they get into office, they prove the point that government doesn't work because they just gum up the whole system. But that's a whole nother point. But the reality is that they have a much easier argument. However, we sometimes fall into the trap. What do I mean by that? Earlier this year, during the Doge cuts, right? Elon Musk and the Doge bros are going around cutting government indiscriminately, laying off people, cutting critical programs. And what do Democrats do? We say, don't cut government. Don't cut government. It's working. Well, guess what? We then became the defenders of the status quo. And look, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm a union guy. I'm a son of a single mom. I will tell you this. Most working people I know don't believe that government's working for them. And so we can't become the defender of the status quo as a Democratic Party. We have to present a new vision to them. We have to present a new vision of government and how it's actually going to improve people's lives and reinstill confidence in them that government can be a catalyst for change and can make a difference in your life, right? So you see what I'm saying? You see the difference there? We can just sometimes fall into this trap that the Republicans set for us because they have such an easier argument to make.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I know I have a friend, a very prominent Democrat. I won't name him on here, but when the Doge cuts first started happening, he actually said, I secretly hope that they kind of cut some of the impediments to getting services to people, because it's true. There is so much red tape. The gears of government, move very slowly. So I think that that could be popular to a lot of people. Like, let's speed things up. Let's cut through the muck. And of course, they were so inept and careless and reckless that they hurt a lot of people. And, millions of people are going to and have, died because of the cuts to USAID.
That's exactly right.
And all of that. So it's nothing to be flippant about. But, your point is very well taken.
Well, and let me just say on this, it's not to suggest that we shouldn't have stood up and called out all of that stuff where they were cutting some of these programs and it obviously creating so much pain in this country and around the world. We needed to call that out. But sometimes we unwillingly fall into the trap and we become the defender of the status quo. No one wants to go back to the status quo. People want a new vision for this country, and that's what Democrats have to provide.
And we have sort of a perverse opportunity. Like, that's kind of the silver lining I look is in all the wreckage that is being done right now. When we get back in power, it can't be the status quo. We have to reimagine our government in a way that really serves people. And so that gives me a little bit of hope. I know you got to go. So
let me give you one little nugget that should give your listeners some hope.
Are you going to, because my last question, maybe you knew this, but we always ask our guests, the last question is, what's giving you hope right now? So,
what gives me hope in this moment right now is my colleagues that I work with every single day here. These are some of the most brilliant strategists. They all could go work in the private sector and make a lot more money with a lot less stress, but they're here because they care deeply about this work. They're mission-driven people who know the consequences of winning elections and losing elections, and they understand that this isn't just about winning for winning's sake, that we're trying to improve people's lives. We're trying to make a difference and transform communities in a way that builds a type of, country and communities we all want to and deserve to live in. And that's what gives me hope, because I just saw these folks, most of them just really young folks, busting their ass so hard because they believe in this mission, and that gives me hope. But let me give your listeners some hope as it relates to the election next year. Okay. And I'm going to use a few dates just to illustrate this. 2005, 2017, and 2025. All right. What do 2005 and 2017 have in common? They're both precursors to big midterm wave elections for the Democrats. 2005, George Bush comes in, he attacks Social Security, his numbers go into the shitter, and we win control of both chambers of Congress the next year in 2006 in a historic big blue wave election that ushered us into both chambers of Congress, and no one thought we had a prayer's chance in hell of winning both chambers. 2017, Donald Trump comes in, first year in office, he attacks the ACA, similar thing happens, big wave election, we win both chambers. 2025, that orange bastard comes in, he attacks Social Security, he attacks Medicaid, he attacks SNAP, the most unpopular piece of legislation in a half a century. His numbers are at the all-time low, 37%. He's the most unpopular politician ever, president, I should say, ever. And guess what? When we are going into next year, we are going to win back at least the House. We only need 3 seats. And think about this. The average swing for the party out of power in a congressional midterm election, 26 seats. That number spikes to 38 seats when you have a president sitting under 50%. That gives me hope, and that should give your listeners hope. Now, let me just say this, and this is my caution. While I'm optimistic, I'm never complacent. Do not rest on those laurels. Do not believe it's going to happen. Do not just say it's going to happen because that's historically what has always happened. We have to go out and work for it, roll up our sleeves, do the hard work, organize, keep this momentum going by not resting on your laurels. Run like you're 20 points behind, even if you're 20 points ahead. And if we do that, we will win back both chambers and be able to get this guy out of there even before 2028. So mark my words, we're not resting until we do that.
Amazing. Chair Martin, what a pleasure to get to know you a little bit. Thanks so much for being here. And really, thank you so much for your extraordinary leadership. We're really grateful.
Thanks for everything you did in California and everyone else did. And I hope to come back on sometime, okay?
I'd love it. Yeah. And I'll see you at the DNC meeting in LA.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks again, man. This has been an honor. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for everything you've done to make this day possible. Please subscribe, rate, and review our show on Apple, YouTube, or wherever you are finding us, and share it with your friends and families. Let's keep building this momentum. Let's keep getting everyone into action so that we win in the midterms. If you're able to support our show on Substack, that would be very helpful to us, and you get the ad-free version of our show there as well. We will be back next week with some more Practivist Pod. And don't forget, as Jess says, hope is in action.